been the most basic expression of democratic rights for the last 15 years. They gathered in Santiago today in their tens of thousands. Moderate Christian Democrats, socialists and communists marching together. The flags of 17 different political parties making up the command for the no. All of them united in opposition to the regime of General Pinochet. It was the biggest political rally yet seen in the capital.
In Something Fierce, Aguirre reveals how adopting a fictional identity sharpens one's ability to understand others, but can shatter any happiness and sense of self.
At dinner, I sat between Alejandro and the cousin, symbols of the two halves of my heart, joining us around the dining room table. Page 250. This quote symbolizes the divided sense of identity Carmen is experiencing both in her personal life and in her desires. By describing the two boys as two halves of her heart, it reveals the different ways, the complex ways, in which they represent the two halves of her identity. Alejandro, on one side, suppresses her individuality. She follows him into the revolution, forgetting her dreams of never marrying a man, and her dreams with the cousin. That's where it gets complicated. The cousin's the opposite. He celebrates her innocence, her sensuality from her adolescence, and it brings back those feelings for her.
Her love for Alejandro ultimately reveals itself as more superficial than initially appeared when they first met, their shared passion for the revolution emerging as the only true foundation of their relationship. Any love they once shared was heavily tainted by the suffering and loss they witnessed while underground. Carmen's mother said something similar about her and Bob's relationship when they broke up, that the burden the revolution put on their relationship was too heavy for any two people to bear.
It's clear she realized this internal split as tensions around the dining table rise. You see, when personal beliefs clash with pressures to conform and danger, it is inevitable that fractures will occur in relationships.
In the epilogue, Carmen says, "Young people whose parents give their lives to a cause have let me know that it's thanks to the book that they were able to understand their elders, many of whom died, were murdered, or disappeared before their children could ask them the how and the why of their commitment to a political struggle." Page 281.
This quote shows the impact of the decision every revolutionary parent had to make, prioritizing their revolutionary or parental responsibilities. The children of these underground heroes were left with unanswered questions, never knowing the real reasons their parents made the ultimate sacrifice of not being in their life.
What Aguirre does in Something Fierce is give these children, now adults, context as to why their parents went to such far extremes, and she makes her story more relatable to this audience by talking about how her mother failed to give her a normal life, leaving her and her sister Ale alone without food for weeks on end. Aguirre started to grow distant from her mother because she realized that she didn't always have her best interests in mind, even admitting that this is why her grandmother is her favorite person in the world. Carmen's mother never even threw her a real quinceañera and refused to let her stay in Chile with her grandmother, where she could have had a simpler and safer life, sheltered from the revolution.
She dragged Carmen and her sister at 10 and 11 into violent situations instead of letting them stay with their dad in Vancouver. She risked her life, left them starving, and let them witness suffering and loss throughout their entire childhood. This shows that even parents lost a piece of their humanity while fighting for the revolution.
I was numb, my breath shallow. It was critical to stop that fear. But did that mean having no feelings left at all? If that was the only way to keep doing the work, it was a price I was willing to pay. This quote represents the first time Aguirre felt real fear after becoming a revolutionary at just 18 years old. Throughout the entire novel, she describes the contradiction that she faces between her personal desires and her devotion to the revolution.
What I learned from my parents and from the people I call uncles, aunts, and cousins, who are the Chilean community in exile in Vancouver, was that no matter what's happened in your life, you have to get up the next morning and go to work. There is no we don't have the privilege of lying down and sobbing.
Here, Aguirre realizes that if she really wants this cause to succeed, she'll do whatever it takes and squash her humanity. Later, after narrowly escaping a secret police agent in a supermarket in Argentina, she realizes that she needs to keep her body separate from her soul in order to escape the constant threat of danger.
On page 224, Aguirre reflects that the body cannot take chronic terror. It must defend itself by refusing to harbor the spirit. These two moments show how Aguirre is forced to suppress her own identity and human emotions in order to carry out her role as a spy and ultimately keep from succumbing to her trauma.
By doing so, Aguirre, quote, learned to categorize people at a glance: informer, agent, possible helper, militant. 223. Through abandoning her true identity and the parts of her that feel fear, love, and pain, she sharpens her ability to sense danger in others' motives. This fictional identity becomes her greatest weapon and her biggest curse, allowing her to navigate a dangerous world, but ultimately hollowing out the person she once was.
She is brave.
She is honest.
She is something.
She is something fierce.